Good evening and welcome to a round of catechesis to you, my dear young people. I'm sure a few of you have been watching Vatican news, where Pope Francis often gets onto his papal mobile and loves to interact with others. In 2013, I happened to be watching a news edition of Vatican News. And there, as all the people were standing beyond the railing edges, hoping to have a good glance of Pope Francis, suddenly the security personnel, encouraged by Pope Francis, walked to the railing on the side and took a little baby in the hands of a young mother into his own hands. And this security personnel carried this little baby to Pope Francis. In the fraction of a minute, 1,000 cameras went flash, cheese, click. Everybody in the audience applauded thunderously as they saw the Holy Father, Pope Francis himself, take the little baby in his hands and kiss this little baby on her cheeks. What a wonderful moment of excitement and thrill for the parents of this little baby girl, Adeline. Adeline's parents are a family who live in the Grand Bahamas. And they had decided to make a visit to Rome. And they were really hoping that they would get a glimpse of Pope Francis up and close. Not even in their wildest dreams that they had imagined that the Pope would even touch their little baby daughter, Adeline. My dear young friends, the insight I want to draw from this incident is this: that while the parents of little Adeline were absolutely bewildered, thrilled, tearful, and everybody in the audience was excited, there was one person who was oblivious of what was going around, and that was little Adeline herself. While the whole world was excited, there was one person who seemed to not even know the impact of what had happened on that particular day. This is in 2013. I'm just trying to fast forward the calendars of life and imagine, let's say 15 years from now, let's say in another 15 to 16 years from now, this little girl, Adeline, grows up to a young girl. Imagine her joy when she realizes the impact of this reality, that she had been held into the hands of the Holy Father and she had been kissed by the Holy Father himself. That which she probably did not gauge while she was little now comes to a full-fledged awareness in her life. And this awareness can become the springboard to engineer a new way of life. I'd like to talk to you something about our journey of the sacrament of confirmation. Very often young people ask the question that if we have already received the gift of baptism when we were little babies, why is it necessary that we have to go through the sacrament of confirmation again? I'd like to bring to you a quote from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This quote of the Catechism of the Catholic Church tells us beautifully the link between baptism and confirmation. The Catechism of the Catholic Church 1285 teaches us that the reception of the sacrament of confirmation is linked to the sacrament of baptism. That the sacrament of confirmation is necessary for us to complete in our lives baptismal grace. Therefore, we see a great link between baptism and confirmation. At baptism, not the Holy Father, but God the Father himself has accepted us and embraced us in his love. But we as little children were not really fully aware of this, even as our parents took on the first responsibility that we would follow the Christian faith. Confirmation then becomes the opportunity where we begin to bask in this realization that God has embraced us in confirmation, and now we are willing to make our own full-throated yes to follow Jesus Christ as his disciples on the faith journey. What then is confirmation? We've got to understand confirmation from this broader concept then. You know, in these days of the lockdown, I'm only able to give you these little messages because of my friends who have been kind to me. My friends Anil, Adrian, and Zachariah. And you know, yesterday when I requested Adrian to come with his camera, imagine me telling Adrian, you just come with your camera, Adrian, I'll bring all the other things that are required really. And Adrian is happy. I mean, he has to come from the neighboring parish to reach out to me, so he comes with his camera. Now I come with a little mouthpiece. I come with a little connecting cords that can go into the camera. And Adrian is looking for this tripod stand that I'm supposed to bring. And I tell my friend Adrian, I bought my tripod stand, but I'm sorry to tell you that the tripod stand has only 2 legs. You can imagine the way Adrian is going to roll his eyes about me. Like, really, Ivan, are you really okay? How can you say a tripod stand with just 2 legs? It is anything else of a do-it mechanical gadget, but not a tripod. A tripod necessitates by its very definition to have 3 feet. And I tell him, but Adrian, this tripod was a tripod, but one of the legs fell off. Make use of it. You can't. This is going to be just a crutch of a gadget on which he is not going to mount his expensive camera. I'd like to use this analogy to tell you that the 3 sacraments that are held together in this tripod are what are called the sacraments of Christian initiation: baptism, Eucharist, and confirmation. These 3 sacraments together form the sacraments of Christian initiation, and they make us, in a certain sense, a complete Christian adult. Confirmation then completes this journey of becoming Christian adults, and therefore in your confirmation sacrament you have the right of renewal of baptismal vows, which to now you will be full-throated in saying yes. The yes which your parents said at your baptism is now owned in a powerful yes at your own confirmation. So what does confirmation do? Some people have said confirmation is a sacrament in the search of a theology. I think that is passé, because this is a sacrament of the Holy Spirit. It encourages us. It makes us disciples and gives us the gifts of the Holy Spirit: courage, fortitude, fear of the Lord. All these are gifts that the Holy Spirit gives us. And because of these gifts, we are able to move out to our mission as disciples of Christ, as adults in the Christian faith. The word confirmation itself comes from the Latin word confirmare, which means it confirms the grace that we have already received at our baptismal calling. And so what confirmation does is it strengthens the grace of the Spirit that is already there within us, but now needs to be activated in our lives. We have become more and more conscious of this gift of grace in our lives. Like Adeline, when she's 17 years old, will bask in the beauty, will bask in this wonderful feeling that a great man like Pope Francis has touched her. Confirmation then must get us excited to believe that God had embraced me as a little baby in my baptism, and now I have become aware of this great deed done by God. And with this grace then, Jesus gives us this command that we are called to go out into the world to be light of the world and salt of the earth. We are called to bring these in the right proportion of our lives. Not give too much of light, because too much of light is going to blind one's vision. Not even an excess of salt, because too much of salt in a dish can spoil the taste and the flavor of that dish. We are called to be in proportion in playing our role as light of the earth and salt of the earth. We're not called to play a very cosmetic role in cookery. Like when you go for a meal, you often see in a lovely fine dine setting, you'll have two little shakers on the table, the salt and pepper shaker there. Very often, we do not even touch the salt shaker and dab salt. We're not called to just be designing a kitchen table as a salt and pepper shaker. We're called to exhibit the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And this is the gift that the scriptures speak about. Jesus says that when the Spirit will be poured out upon you, you will receive power. And we know on Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit came as tongues as of fire and like wind, the disciples were now a transformed lot, and they were able to go out into their mission in spite of challenges in the world. I want to talk today about the gift of many of you young people who are absolutely incredible in your faith because of the gift of the Holy Spirit. And I'd like to talk here about a young boy from the parish of Our Lady of Fatima at Sivri. Last year in 2019, we had the Quo Vadis Lenten retreat at the South Bombay Deanery at the Holy Name Cathedral School Hall. And while the retreat had begun during the course of the evening, I saw a man bring his son for this retreat. And I was introduced to this young boy whose name was Aaron. Aaron is physically challenged and requires help. So his dad was bringing him each of these 3 days for the Quo Vadis retreat. And I was wondering whether his dad is forcing him to attend this Quo Vadis retreat. When his dad told me that he himself is so excited and wanted to be part and loved stimulating his faith at the Quo Vadis retreat. This year, Quo Vadis retreat came under a lockdown assault of the virus. We were just able to have the first Quo Vadis at Mira Road, and then we were into the second phase of the second Quo Vadis at Our Lady of Dola's Church in Vadala. And with that, we had to close the retreats. But when I was there at the retreat one evening, I saw that the taxi pulled into the campus of the parish, and out comes young Aaron again, helped by his mother to move from the taxi to the hall where we were gathered. And I'm like absolutely amazed. While so many of you young people have made the sacrament of confirmation the goodbye party from the church, here is this young boy with the challenges of his life and yet excited to participate in the formation and the growth of his faith journey. He has come to Quo Vadis while many of the others wanted to stay in the safety and the security of your homes. This young man, supported by his parents, have come to attend the Quo Vadis retreat. I've been talking to his friends in the parish, and one of his friends told me that when Aaron was receiving his confirmation in his parish, there was something which had seized this young man. And I responded, not being very calculative about my language. I think Aaron must have been very happy that day when he received the sacrament of confirmation. And one of the youngsters from his parish corrected my language and said, "Deacon Ivan, Aaron was not happy. It was more than just being happy. Aaron was joyful." That's the gift of the Holy Spirit. And then I'm told that the first time Aaron ever went to a movie hall was to watch the film, The Passion of the Christ. What a passion of faith, that life, even if it causes you some temporary crippling situations, it is not going to cripple or it's not going to stifle your faith. Aaron is a symbol of what the sacrament of confirmation does to us. The gift of grace that we have received at baptism is now strengthened on our journey as adults of faith. Pope Francis has often said this to us, that the Holy Spirit is not meant to remain within our souls. He is not meant to be locked up in the deposit of our souls, but rather is meant to move out of our lives as we give witness to one another. For those of you who have received the sacrament of confirmation, and those of you embarking on the journey of catechesis that will begin in a month from now, allow yourself to begin to revitalize yourself. Begin to become aware and allow the Spirit to strengthen the grace that we have already been gifted with at baptism. And we will find that we will be daring enough to walk out into the world and accomplish the mission that God has in mind with the power and the accompaniment of the Holy Spirit. Be blessed is my wish for you. And may you all experience the gifts of the Holy Spirit in your personal lives. God bless and be Spirit-led in your personal lives.